As I neared the stronghold's inner sanctum, a strange sensation crept over me. An indescribable feeling of displacement, a sense of vertigo, as reality itself appeared to warp and bend around me. The disturbance seemed to emanate from the sanctuary's furthest chapel. As I cautiously approached, the sense of dislocation intensified with each step.
The weird thing is that this hasn't stopped spinning for a while. I went into Soul Reaver 2 with fond memories of this game when I played it all the way back on the PS2, so how did it hold up to their memories? In short, very well. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 2 is the third entry to the Legacy of Kain franchise, and a return to the land of Nosgoth with its gothic atmosphere, where vampires, wraiths, monsters, undead creatures, humans and time travel, and also a mythical sword all in one game. Sounds like a complete mess, but somehow it works and is one of the best storytellings that I've ever come across in a game. Soul Reaver 2 is a story-intensive game, so I had a hard time trying to explain the campaign without giving away too much. The main character again is Raziel, and you start the game off where the first Soul Reaver game ended, except it's retold in a cutscene. I enjoyed the pre-rendered cutscenes of the fight with Raziel and Kain. It's nicely done and reimagines the fight from Soul Reaver 1's end boss fight. As Kain goes through the time portal, Raziel follows. Then Mobius takes Raziel out of the time stream to talk to Raziel about destroying Kain and his destiny, and that's pretty much where the game starts off. I think that the writing has been stepped up a level from the last game to the point where it's clever writing, where Raziel seems to wise up a bit and questions a lot of things this time around, especially after the talk with Kain and what he's trying to do and finding a third option to the dilemma that Ariel gave him in the first Blood Omen game, what Mobius set up. And Raziel seems to develop more of a relationship with Kain and not all on vengeance now. He kind of goes in a new direction after Kain's speech at the Pillars. And Raziel asks himself, why does Mobius and the Squid want Kain dead so much? By the hand of Raziel, why does he have to do it? And there is something behind all this scheming, what Kain insists about, that this person hasn't actually showed themselves yet. And later on you find out the only way you can properly change the course of time, so it reshuffles itself as it did in Blood Omen, as if the two Reavers meet as he gives Raziel the Reaver blade, and Raziel changes the course of time by defying to kill Kain at that point in time. So the timeline gets reshuffled again, showing that Raziel does have true free will to change the timelines.
You hold all of the cards. Then perhaps I should test your sincerity. If what you say is true, you should be terrified. I could kill you here and now.
And so you do, Raziel.
What's happening?
We're hurtling towards our destinies, Raziel. What you feel is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. If you truly believe in free will, Raziel, now is the time to prove it. Kill me now, and we both become pawns of history, dragged down the path of an artificial destiny. I was ordained to assume the role of Balance Guardian in Nosgoth, while you were destined to be its savior. But the map of my fate was redrawn by Mobius, and so in turn was yours. This is madness! Fight it, Raziel. This moment does not have to be an ending. It can become a prelude. I can't. You can, Raziel. Look inside and see that it is so. You have the power to reshape our inevitable futures. Poor William.
What is this?
History abhors a paradox, Raziel. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself, finding its old course blocked by your refusal to destroy me. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves, Raziel, and reclaim our intended destinies.
And also Raziel finds murals of an all-out war between a winged race, known as the vampires, and some other race while trying to find out what he is at the same time. As Vorador says to Raziel, you don't know what you are, do you? Seek out Yanis Audron, he will have the answers that you seek. Only there's a catch, he's been dead for a very long time. So Raziel goes to Mobius' time travel device so he can go through time to talk to Yanis Audron again. And as you go through time, you end up finding out more of Novskov's secrets. All the controls, I'm going to say they suck on the PC version and shows how outdated it is. However, I appreciated that it allowed me to remap the controls to my liking, and after about 10 minutes or so I was on my way and the controls were good now. The movement is smoother on the platform jumping side, and I could easily precisely jump from platform to platform now without worrying that I'm accidentally going to fall off like in Soul Reaver 1. So in general, the movement controls were much improved. I found the combat easy to get into with a lock-on button mechanic what locks onto enemies with a light and heavy attack what I could use. The combat's a bit more harder from Soul Reaver 1 with better AI. Although I found the combat not all that good, where enemies can lock onto me with this repeated attack motion now and again, what I could not seem to dodge, what I found a bit annoying at times. And the dodge mechanic isn't always as responsive as I wanted it to be, although this could be down to the PC version that I played, more on that subject later about the PC version. And when the dodge mechanic worked, I had a lot more fun with it, where I could dodge right behind the enemy and kind of surprise attack them. And the enemies can block, and there do not seem to be a way that you can break it unless you use the Reaver blade or get behind them. But heavy attacks and standard weapons will not break their block whatsoever. Nevertheless, I found if I blocked, they could easily break it in a second, what made the block action useless to me if I used it. But now for the more enjoyable part of the combat, what I did adore was that I could use the Reaver blade at any time now, and it's easily my favourite weapon in the whole game. Except if it's equipped and I've killed an enemy, it will absorb their soul, what also adds to this overheating bar. If I used it too much, it will drain Raziel's health, what kind of reminds me not to overuse it. And I did have a bit of fun using the Reaver like a gun sort of thing and seeing what the enemy do and having a laugh while they run up to me, then get blasted back by the Reaver, then they run up to me again and get blasted back. To me, that just never got old. And I enjoyed that I could still use any weapon that I find throughout the environment and use execution moves when the enemy was near death. It was similar to Mortal Kombat style, so in all I'm conflicted with the combat mechanics and all. Some aspects of it is really good, and others parts I just hated. You do get to keep a lot of the skills from the first game, like immunity to water, going through fences in the spectral realm, and so on. The elemental magic powers from the first game seem to have vanished now, and it seems to be replaced with different elemental Reaver blades such as light, dark, wind and fire. And how you go about unlocking these is solving puzzles in these ruins, is how you progress throughout the campaign as well. With these elemental Reaver blades is how you unlock new paths throughout Novskov. Now Raziel's health increases as you unlock these blades, but you can't just switch to a different Reaver. Raziel has to bathe it in these elemental stations. I'm glad to say there are no more block puzzles. They did overdo it a little bit in the last game. It's more of using the Reaver blade and the Reaver elements and using the spectral realm to solve the puzzles now. In all, I think that the puzzles are more better designed and more fleshed out, especially when I was in this tomb and I had to get this heart-beating ruby and place it in this moving carcass so that the big statuette can eat its soul so I can unlock the Wind Reaver. I've got to admit, that was kind of cool. There are checkpoints now, thank fuck. That's something that the last game didn't have, and now if I died in the spectral realm, I'm not brought all the way back to the squid again and making the journey to where I was again in the game. At least now I'll just get put back to the last pole checkpoint, So I was relieved about that, and there are save points throughout the land of Nosgoth, and they kind of remind me of Blood Omen's save point. There are new creatures and monsters and enemies for me to fight and devour their souls. And at first, this was fun fighting these guys, yet after a while I started to avoid them, where the enemies were respawning on the same spot on the map, and I remember doing the same thing in the original Soul Reaver game because of this. I was a little bit disappointed that there are no boss fights like in the last game, because I felt like the boss fights were a big part of that game, where I was looking forward to the next mutated vampire boss fight. But I would say there are mini boss fights in this game, as in these ball demon things.
You shall not pass.
I would say that Soul Reaver 2 is a linear well compared to its predecessor. It's more of a corresponding to like one big pathway now that Raziel unlocks as he goes through the campaign. So there was not a point where I thought, where do I go now? And there's a lot of backtracking as you travel through time as well and see the land in different time zones and how the environment changes, what opens up new areas of the map. And I did enjoy seeing Nosgoth back before the corruption of the pillars and after. And the places that stand out to me was a swamp, because that was a callback to the original Blood Omen game, and the Sarafan stronghold, where it's kind of like one big castle with mules and stainless glass pictures. I found them good artwork, and also they tell a story about them. The graphics have been improved a lot from Soul Reaver 1, and the characters have been overhauled on their design with a lot more detail to them now, and seem to take advantage of the technology what was available at the time. And the PC version of this game looks good to this day. Even though it came out a long time ago, I think that the game has aged quite well. The cutscenes are very well done in game engine and made me pay attention to them, especially where Raziel monologues in his head and telling me about this world in some way or another.
And for the first time beheld Nosgoth in its former glory. The land overflowed with abundant life and vitality. And I knew with certainty then that the world I had left behind was nothing more than the corpse of Nosgoth, a lifeless husk bled dry by the corruption of Kain's parasitic empire. This was the fragile world Kain sacrificed to preserve his own petty life and ambition, heedless of the profound cost. The sight only deepened my resolve. I sensed that the pillars lay to the northwest, and if Kain truly waited to confront me there, I would not disappoint him.
And the voice acting is brilliantly done and added more to the characters' emotions this time around, and the actors done a remarkable job bringing these characters to life and takes advantage of the better writing, and because of that they have a lot more personality to them now and much more interesting characters as a whole. And Raziel and Kain's voice acting is what brings this game alive. I was glad that my favourite vampire made a return, even though it's more of a cameo in this game. However, when I saw the more modern version of Vorador in this game, I adored the redesign of him from Blood Omen. And Mobius is back, and he's more of a schemer than ever now, and right from the start his voice acting told me everything about this guy and to be very cautious of him. I like how Raziel changes his mind about the Sarafan from the start of the game, from where he thinks they were saviours of Nosgoth, and by the time when he gets to the end of the game, and it does a complete 180 on it, and Raziel seems to be repulsed by them, and this showed character growth to me. In the scenes and throughout the campaign you can see him slowly start turning. Except I do have two complaints about this game, is that I can't seem to skip the cutscenes, what made it a bit annoying when I was trying to get this game to run well enough on my computer, and I had to put up with the long intro to this game many times. And the second is that I couldn't turn on the subtitles. That just really baffled me, and don't get why this was overlooked. The game seems to run at 25 frames on the PS2 Power version of the game, and I felt like that was a bit too choppy for me. That's when I went all in on the PC version trying to get this game running, and it took some time for me to set up the PC version because of compatibility issues with modern hardware, where I had to limit the frame to 60 and run this game on 1 or 2 cores on the CPU. Now this is not the first time that I had to do something like this to run on modern computers, but if you're not comfortable or doing a bit of tinkering to get this game going, then I wouldn't recommend the PC version of this game at this point in time. The It took him 2 hours to get this game going. I didn't tell him about the mod what he could download it to fix this game instantly. For how long the game is, I clocked on around about 10 hours. Yeah, I could see this game done in around about 7, maybe 8 hours if I knew what I was doing from this get-go and knowing how to solve all the puzzles. So in the end, I enjoyed playing Soul Reaver 2 again and returned to the land of Noskov. So have you played Soul Reaver 2? What do you think of it? Leave it in the comments below. Until next game, I'm off.